been footing the bill of subsidy payment. He said that Nigeria can no longer afford to pay for subsidy. In a nation, assuming you won the election, would you run a government that will continue to pay for what it cannot pay for, what it cannot afford?
Okay, let me tackle it this way. First, for those who say I'm jealous, of course, there's a limit of... I was jealous on the day of inauguration. I wish I was the one being inaugurated. But that's not the reason for this. I'm now jealous about the welfare of Nigerians and about my own welfare. The issue is this. I concede that it will be late now to be litigating the issue of subsidy because we spent 1 year litigating it, and the voters had voted for a president who said, I will remove subsidy. The only thing I am saying, for me, from my point of view, is that the argument by Mele Kyari and all of that, this is the internal bookkeeping of government. Since there appears to me to be, unlike what TUC is saying, I agree that there is a consensus between the people, the electorate, and their government that subsidy should go. Now, over time, when the subsidy goes away, and there are other problems that come over it, and the fiscal anemia of the government still doesn't get cured, people might go back to me and say, well, SDP and Adebayo were right when they said subsidy should not go that time. But the point I'm making now is that the announcement has caused a lot of panic in the system. The president hadn't taken the time to sit down, like all these meetings with Mele Kyari, with other people, to put things in place and to ensure that, because it's predictable.
So you are thinking it's a knee-jerk approach?
It's a knee-jerk announcement.
But there are those who say that that is hitting the ground running.
No, with due respect, that's not hitting the ground running. Why? Because as at the time President Tinubu was taking oath of office, the law of the land is that subsidy is gone. So that's the law of the land.
So it's just reiterating what the law says?
Yes, and in reiterating it, there ought to be, there's something in policy management we call the theory of unintended consequences. You will know normally that the president of Nigeria, President Tinubu, is the most important person in Nigeria today. His pronouncement affects every market. His pronouncement can even affect somebody's marriage. So if you fix your wedding for next week and he says the price of garri will go up or price of rice, you may review and say, why do I have to marry now? So when you are occupying that office, your pronouncement should be so calculated and so well structured that you know that people will react. Now, remember, it is not only one market that reacted. Also, the foreign exchange market also reacted. Because by the time he says he's going to unify the exchange rate, you start to see movement in the
other direction.
And also, it also removes the argument, which TUC is saying here, regarding exchange rate. He knows that to deal with the issue of subsidy removal, you must also deal with the issue of foreign exchange. So by the time you have the foreign exchange convergence, and I believe that you converge towards the north rather than converge towards the south. So by the time, which means that you are more likely to see the official rate travels the direction of parallel market. You are not going to see the parallel market travel in the direction of the... So that issue, but for me, as SDP, for me as an individual who ran, I have given up on the issue of whether subsidy should be removed or not because he has won the argument and he has been elected on that. But we must do it in a way which puts structures in place to ensure, and he has a limited time to do it, and he can do it, but it won't change the law. The law is very clear.
Let me bring back Mr. Osifo. You have made a recommendation. You, in fact, said categorically that removal, the statement of the president was a joke taken too far. And you have also said that he should rescind that decision.
Yes, if you read the letter, okay, before I go to that, just to some of the things Adebayo said, I think it's complete contradiction. From everything they are saying, is contradicting because he's speaking from both sides of the mouth. And no wonder he has such a abysmal vote in the last election. So for us, our position has been very, very clear. If you read what we wrote there, we are saying, because he went on to still be talking about engagement of stakeholders. But that is clearly what we have said, that stakeholders must be engaged. So if we say that stakeholders must be engaged, how do you engage stakeholders? Is it by making a pronouncement that was not even in the written speech? No. it is not just making pronouncement, but what are the framework around that pronouncement? It's not just by dictating that exchange rate should be unified, but what are the framework around that unification of exchange rate? Is it something you do overnight? Okay, with the comment, you see what has been happening to the price of PMS, but as exchange rate unified, the answer is no. So which come first? You cannot put the horse before the cart. So generally, you must, as a government, you must sit down and think through any policy framework. You must think through, you must engage the stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, he said unintended consequence. But you must manage those, you must foresee. That is why you do scenario planning. So when you carry out those scenarios planning, you will be able to forecast those unintended consequences. So our position really has been clear that if you read our communication, it's very clear that before you do this, there must be engagement. And we must understand, okay, if you talk about the exchange rate, it's not about announcement. What are the framework around those exchange rates? Do you have them?
Mr. Osifo, just quickly, because I asked you that question that
Yes.
when you said the president should rescind his decision, but those who will say that is it fair also because there are no new products in the market as at the time the president had made that decision. But isn't this some kind of panic element?
Yes.
Or the panic, an element of greed on the part of petroleum marketers? They are selling old products at exorbitant prices.
Yes. That is what will happen when such statements were made the way they were.
Is it fair to do
because as we talk, no, it is totally wrong. It is totally unfair. And that is why we've also said, like we talked about the law. If you check the statement yesterday, he said, as at the law, he was talking about Appropriation Act, that with the Appropriation Act today, that subsidy is gone. But is that correct? Because as at today, the Appropriation Act provided for subsidy till June 30th. If the communication was, okay, at the end of the day, by June 30th, this is gone, but we are going to discuss with all the stakeholders to see how.
What are you saying invariably to the president? Let's assume he's watching right now. What would you be telling him?
Yes, what I would tell him is that the Appropriation Act as at today provided till June 30th. The PIA came since 2021, and subsidy is still there. The PIA came since August 2021, but the subsidy is still there. So what we are saying is that go back, then let us sit down, look at all the framework. There are a lot of parameters, there are a lot of indices that must be looked at. Otherwise, you saw what is happening today. The way the average marketer psych work today, they have been buying PMS less than 150 and naira per liter. But in some places in Port Harcourt today, PMS was selling as high as 1,000 naira. So the position generally that we have canvassed for is that you go back because there's a provision in the law till June 30th.
Right.
So we will all sit down, we look at that June 30th. Is it the best time for us to do this? What are the framework around this? What are the other secondary consequences as a result of
Mr.
this?
Osifo,
How can those issues be better managed? So that the Nigerian workers and the Nigerian masses will not be subjected to enormous hardship. So if they have a plan at all, let them also tell us. We may not know the plan they have.
Let me allow Mr. Adewale
to
wrap up for us on this.
You see, let's make it clear. The reason why we've been dragging this issue for some time is because of lack of clarity. From what I heard from Mr. Osifo, either he didn't understand what I said, or he doesn't understand economics. The only thing you need to understand very clear is that TUC, Pegasan, NSC, they were not overseas when the Appropriation Act 2023 was passed. They did not, it's the law of the land. Now, where were they to engage on that issue? Secondly, when the debate was still in the open as to whether we should form a government that will remove subsidy or not, they went with the people who said they will remove subsidy.
But our position was clear. We also told the Labour Party candidate, we told the Labour Party candidate clearly that we are not supporting you on this. That even if you win and come on board on this, but he told us that if he comes on board, that he's going to discuss, we will sit down, we will have a conversation. So what we are saying is that where are the conversations today? So I think you are stabbing economics in its head because it is a very no. You need to state it exactly the way it should be. When government came and government were putting those things out there, what we did, even in PIA, even in the Act, there were statements we released. We engaged members of National Assembly. So don't say we did nothing. We did. Maybe we're not living in Nigeria as that.
This is why they don't have the credibility to lead Labour. This is the reason why. Because they're just looking for relevance. You have to make the law very clear, issue very clear. There are two things we can do now. You must have subsidy. Because they passed the law, we were protesting, you were collaborating with those who would say, and this so-called understanding you had, no, they were busy negotiating money for election, had to collect money from politicians. They were not paying attention.
Let
me say clearly.
Sorry.
With due respect, you say your own identity.
You have to take that back.
No, it's a fact.
You have to bring the proof. Bring the proof, please.
Listen to me.
Please. After now, it is now I knew why you perform abysmally in the election.
No problem.
Because you don't even understand Nigerian problems.
No.
You don't understand Nigerian issues. You clearly don't understand the economy. You clearly don't understand what Nigeria represents. I wonder why a party like SDP will go and look for somebody like you who is very a quack. A quack in all regards. Because clearly does not understand.
This is family television.
So he cannot say what he just said. No. He has to retract that. No, because that is a clear allegation.
Let's be civil. So that this is not a
he has to retract that. He has to retract that clearly.
Just a moment. Will you allow me to do my job, please?
Okay.
Mr. Adewale, you do not have any evidence.
I do have.
Please bring
the point is this. Let me make it point.
Because you're making just a moment. Mr. Osifo,
please
you cannot make a categorical
statement. I have my proof. I'm a lawyer. You can meet in court. What I'm saying to use this, I don't want to use your show for this thing.
No. You said it in the show. You said it in the show. You have to make a clarification. We are
because we do not have the time.
We said it before Nigeria. He said it in the show. He must say it. Where and when and what was given.
Please, can you calm down?
Listen to me.
If you know Peter Obi, Peter Obi is not someone who goes around and share money around.
Can you calm down?
So if you were loudly defeated, you cannot be here and saying all what.
Just a moment.
Before national television. He cannot say that.
Mr. Adewale, if you are going to do just a moment, if you are going to do any other thing outside of here, it's up to you. But right here, right now,
let's deal with it.
I am moderating this program, and I'd like you to either retract or to prove what you have said. Just a moment, Mr. Osifo, you will allow me to do my job, please. Please.
Thank you.
Could you retract what you said?
No. With due respect to you,
yes, please.
I will not retract. But let me tell you what I said. My point is this. It was very clear that the position they are taking now is very hypocritical and it is contrary to the position.
That's not what you asked, please.
Can I please?
Sorry. This is a matter button on integrity, no credibility. What you asked,
calm down.
What he's saying
for a moment.
Totally different.
Calm down for a moment. Mr. Adewale, just for a moment.
We have to address that issue.
You made an allegation on his person, and he's right here. If you say that they took money, and that's a criminal allegation that you have leveled against him.
It's not a criminal allegation. It is not. Excuse me.
You have alleged that they took money.
Can I say it? If I say you will understand.
For the sake of this program, so that we can move forward, and we do not have the time, will you retract it and deal with the issues later?
Okay, now, let me say something. I will continue discussing it on your show, but I won't retract what is very clear. What I'm saying to you is that the position they've taken is contrary to what they are saying, and they're just misleading workers.
Mr. Adewale,
the only solution
no, just a moment. No, because he's my guest. I invited him. But you have said something that, just a moment, you have said something that is impugned on his integrity, and you won't retract it, then we will not continue the conversation.
Okay, now, I step it down. Listen, out of respect for you, I step it down.
Okay, that's fine.
I will discuss another time. But what I'm letting you know is this. For as long as we continue to allow people to take inconsistent position and take advantage of leadership of Nigerian workers or Nigerian people, we will not address these issues. The issue we want to address here is as follows. There are two positions you can take on subsidy. Remove or don't remove. They were on the side of remove. They were also in government. Listen, they were also in government. They were also around.
Let him land, please.
They were also around when the immediate past government passed the PIA. Pengasan, the Line Industrial Union representing them was supporting it.
It's not correct.
Hold on.
Let them land, please.
No,
please.
Because Pengassan met in Calabar and said,
you are just repeating.
No, it's not a copyright issue. We don't know everybody that it must go. In the course of electioneering, the Appropriation Act was passed. They didn't picket the government. They didn't argue with the government. The government passed the law. Yeah. So the only reason why we are discussing today was because, in my own humble opinion, the president made what I consider to be a mistake to make a policy statement on that sensitive issue in an unclear way in the inauguration address, which has now caused some panic before even the time that policy will take effect. And I'm saying that when they now came here, no, I didn't know that I was going to be too easy here. I was coming to raise my own point. When they now came, now behaving as if they are looking for negotiation, they are looking for discussion. When the government that made that policy was around, they didn't go for negotiation or discussion.
I'm saying in conclusion, we need to go now. I'll give you 20 seconds. Because I have yet another guest on the program.
Okay, so if we want to progress now, we must discuss, it will be implemented, but we must put palliative in place, measures in place within this short period to ensure
20 seconds.
You see why I say
we need to wrap
up.
up.
Put palliative in place. We must
20
put
seconds.
That is actually, if you check what we have said, we said clearly that on the issue of subsidy, he said about the previous government, we protested. I'm the president of Pengassan. I went to National Assembly. I'm the president of Pengassan, if you don't know. You don't even know.
I know that.
Means you are living in the past. I went to the National Assembly and I made a public presentation before the Senate, before the House of Reps, and our position was extremely clear. So the fact that you now pass the law, it doesn't mean that, okay, why has this not been implemented in 2021? You should answer that.
All right.
August 2021, PIA was
totally out of time.
Why was it not implemented? So the government must discuss with the president of the Nigerian workers on how the interest of the Nigerian workers cannot be put in shambles.
Thank you so much. Festus Osifo, President of the TUC, Mr. Adewale Adebayo, Presidential Candidate of the SDP. Thank you so much, everyone. You've really eaten into the time of my other guests. But we'll take a break, everyone, and when we return, I get yet another perspective. This one is from an APC member, and also the fact that he's also a stakeholder in the energy sector. Tonya Cole will be joining me next on the program. We'll be right back, everyone.
In today's world, our lifestyle, both at work and at play, depends on connectivity. Our connectivity depends on the devices that make it possible, and these devices depend on electric power. When power fails, our life shrinks, our work drops, and our joy dips. JRB Solar Energy Systems are here to ensure that we enjoy uninterruptible power, uninterruptible joy. Whether you're running a business, an institution, or just a home you return daily to rest, JRB has got you covered. No project is too big for our super digital inverters, long-lasting batteries, and efficient solar panels. Go. Dream on. Change your world. JRB Solar Inverters, batteries, solar panels, solar streetlights, and more. Telephone 0906 752 1111. Email sales@jrbsolar.com. With JRB, the sun's gonna shine on everything you do.
The ABC candidates for the speakership position of the 10th House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, Ian Zazzle, congratulates President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on their inauguration. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas wishes them success in their tenure and calls on Nigerians to give them maximum support.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
My people, you know, say election don't finish now. You don't elect president, elect governor, National Assembly members, State of Assembly members. But matter see the tribunal. Well, we have to move forward. First of all, the person where you send go office, it be like say you send a message. Suppose they check upon him, suppose they call him. You suppose they ask him the money where I put for your hand, how you take the manage him, employment, opportunities where you promise me for manifesto, you go do him, I be you no do him. Now here, budgets come make am simple for you. If you track government budget, how government take spend money for your area from budget.org. You even fit track public projects, all the roads, the schools, the hospitals for your area, tracker.ng. You even fit on allocation for your state, for your local government, me.budget.org. Now, the matter in your hand. The person where you send go office, you suppose make sure say they work for you. This message now from Budget.
Oga, that madam be outside, she don't come.
Daily activities comes with different challenges. In a bid to accomplish your daily task, malaria has a way of getting you into distress. P-Alaxin anti-malaria keeps you capable and ensures you deliver against all odds.
Madam!
I feel your face don't calm down. You like say malaria no work.
Malaria don't run. Thanks to P-Alaxin anti-malaria medicine.
I tell you. Madam, thank you.
P-Alaxin, marketed by Greenlight Pharmaceuticals Limited. P-Alaxin defeats malaria.
The ABC candidates for the speakership position of the 10th House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, Ian Zazzle, congratulates President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima on their inauguration. Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas wishes them success in their tenure and calls on Nigerians to give them maximum support.
In today's world, our lifestyle, both at work and at play, depends on connectivity. Our connectivity depends on the devices that make it possible, and these devices depend on electric power. When power fails, our life shrinks, our work drops, and our joy dips. JRB Solar Energy Systems are here to ensure that we enjoy uninterruptible power, uninterruptible joy. Whether you're running a business, an institution, or just a home you return daily to rest, JRB has got you covered. No project is too big for our super digital inverters, long-lasting batteries, and efficient solar panels. Go, dream on, change your world. JRB Solar Inverters, batteries, solar panels, solar street lights and more. Telephone 0906 752 1111. Email sales@jrbsolar.com. With JRB, the sun's gonna shine on everything you do.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's continue the conversation. So, in several states that our correspondents have touched, have covered, the situation is almost the same in Benin City. From Benin City to Abuja, this is what the nation's capital look like today. Few queues everywhere. By Yelsa, you will see similar scenario. This is Yenagoa, the capital, and in several states you can go on, and we cover right here on Channels Television. In the north and the south, the situation is similar. Let's get some perspective now from Mr. Tonye Cole. He's the co-founder of Sahara Energy. He was the governorship candidate of the APC in Rivers State. Thank you so much, Mr. Cole, for joining us.
Thank you, Sharon. Always nice seeing you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, sir. I mean, that decision of for all our lives, we've known subsidy. Nigerians have lived with subsidy. But that decision of the president, what do you make of it?
So it's something that was coming. I think Nigerians somehow have always known somewhere that a day will come when subsidy will go. The question has always been, when will that happen? How will it happen? And who will do it? It takes a very bold and courageous person to take subsidy out, especially for politics, because it's a hot potato. But is it something that was going to come? It would come. Now, the question is the timing right? Should it be this administration or the last administration that should have done it? Because it's going to be done anyway. And what will be the impact on the people when it's going to be done? And that's where we are today. So, timing. I don't think either at the end of an administration or the beginning of an administration is always the right time to do it. So timing is the right time. Communication, how is it communicated? My take and my read was that it was a communication that said a statement of fact. This is something that was already discussed, something that the last administration had already put on the table. Almost everyone knew that June 30th was the day when it was going to go. So it was already there. Now, it was made to me as a statement of fact. Now, how is it interpreted? And that's where we are.
Subsidy is gone.
Yes.
That was on May 29.
Yes.
And officially, legally speaking, it should go on 30th of June. Was that a misstep?
No, because I think, again, I come at it from, you're making a statement of fact. But when, at this point, you make that statement, people will interpret it in different ways. So one set of people who may not have been informed about things happening on 30th of June will say that the next day, subsidy is gone means that as I speak at this minute, it's gone. So there's that interpretation. That will cause panic. There's another interpretation that says that it's a statement of fact. Within another 30 days or thereabouts, it's going to go. And so this is just the process. But I think that's where interpretation is very, very important. Communication for subsidy removal is critical.
I mean, those who will ask the question, and these are what the critics, I mean, the president is your party man.
Yes.
And this is somewhat like a party decision. And is affecting the very core of our nation, because that also will trigger a whole lot of things.
It's true.
The cost of product in the market, any commodity will be affected because PMS is directly the major, the fuel for transportation in Nigeria. But I mean, you look at the shock treatment. If there is any kind of human face to that pronouncement.
Absolutely. And so Sean, you've touched on one critical leg. So you see, subsidy removal stands on three legs. The first one is empathy. People will be affected, but who is affected the most? When studies have been done on this, and the truth is that the beneficiaries of subsidy 6 times higher are the 1%. The 1%, the rich, wealthy, are the ones who will actually benefit from subsidy in place 6 times more than the poor. But that's a study for another day. But empathy, because the poor, for them, that 1 naira you have taken away means a lot to them. So you need to be empathetic. The next one is that you have to be transparent. So there's a social responsibility. They must believe that when what you are taking away, you have to be able to bring it back in another way that affects them. So you take one from one hand, you give another. They must see that happen. And then the last aspect is that they must believe the trust. Now we have a trust deficit. Empathy, they believe, is there. The transparency as to exactly what are we going to get, that's the communication that would happen. Then the last aspect, this is a new administration, and people believe in hope that when a new administration comes in, they have voted you with the belief that tomorrow will be better. You now need to emphasize and deliver on that tomorrow. They're giving you that liberty that you will bring tomorrow and it will be better. So you have that liberty. The main thing right now is the transparency. What will happen with the money that is left coming out from subsidy, and how does it affect the common denominator of the poor man?
In a country where you subsidize product that you don't even know how much you consume, that has been the position. That has been the reality. I mean, we are in a nation.
We know.
We're a nation that people talk about 50 million, over 50 million around that a liter per day. But those who say, no, that's not possible.
Yeah, because a lot goes across the border. And you see, these are leakages that we need to stop.
But isn't that supposed to be the first step to fixing it before making that decision?
No. We've been on this journey for over 20 years. This entire thing about supplying your entire neighbors fuel from Nigeria is not new. It's not today. They will tell you about fixing the borders. We already know that the borders are so porous, you can't fix it. We talk about fixing the refineries before you do it. You know also that that is a problem that we have been living with for so long, over 20 years. It's not been done. And I think if we continue looking at, let us fix these borders, let us fix refinery before we remove subsidy, subsidy would
So
never
you think
go.
President Tinubu made the right choice?
The choice was already made. And that's the truth. That choice has already been made. They spent a long time. And, you know, I listened to TUC, I listened to Pegasus. One of the things that they needed, one of the things that had been a problem, which they have done in the last year or so, is that there has actually been a lot of discussion with Labour, with Pengasin, with different unions about how do we remove subsidy, because everybody knows it has to be removed. So just one thing. You remember that last year, NNPC could not remit anything because all the money that they had was paid off in subsidy. We can't continue that way.
What do you, I mean, if this is happening now and the president then make a decision, Labour is saying rescind that decision. This is a joke too far. If you dare us, we show you. Labour is one entity that you don't want to fight as a new government. If you were in Bola Tinubu's shoes, what would you do?
First thing is that I'm going to call Labour, I'm going to call the Nigerian people, and we're going to have a true discussion about where we're moving. That discussion had been done up until now. A new president has come in. He has to communicate with the people on this. And I believe President Bola Tinubu's voice today, tomorrow, and day after will go a long way in assuaging people that this is a man of empathy and he will be able to understand the poor man's problem and how to address it. Once he does that, people will be okay with it.
Issue of subsidy had actually sent a government packing. We know how sensitive it is.
I know, very sensitive.
And there are a lot of racketeers in this game. Those who are making a living out of it. A lot of people will say, look, there's some those who have been involved in this, but they've gotten a slap on the wrist. There's really no proper prosecution for those who are feeding fat on the resources and on the feelings of the millions of Nigerians. There really no way to punish them properly. But the question is right now, palliatives, no full disclosure on what that will be. But going forward, to ameliorate the pains of the poor, the price will go up. Commodities, inflation will be, a lot of things will be affected. What do you think should be done for the poor this time around?
Okay, so the first aspect of it is that we have to make sure as a nation that we already have a database of the poor, and you have to be able to directly impact their bottom line, their pocket. If you are increasing pricing, you need to be able to give cash, conditional cash transfers to the very, very poor so that they don't enter into a lower level of poverty that they cannot come out of. It's critical that you prevent the poor from falling into deeper poverty. I mean, you must be able to...
Although I'm totally out of time, but I'd like to ask you, what happens to the Petroleum Equalization Fund?
That goes with the PIA. It doesn't exist. The PIA has removed that.
So as a major player in this market, what would you say is a major evil in this subsidy?
Foreign exchange differentials. It's a killer. We need and you must address the foreign exchange in here on the one hand, and then secondly, we need to be able to make sure that we localize supply. So refineries, local supply, less imports, more local production, get there.
Thank you, Mr. Tonyo Cole. A lot of people have criticized that this may make your party more, less popular.
It's a tough decision. It's a hot potato, and it's going to be... It will show the dexterity of the party if you can handle it in the next 30 days.
Mr. Tonyo Cole, co-founder of Sahara Energy and governorship candidate of the APC in Rivers State. Thank you so much. Very insightful conversation, albeit very... time is not there. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. We always appreciate it.
Yeah. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Akimale. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Terrified when speaking before a group? Are you stressed when asked to present? Do you forget your points? Are you shy and need confidence? How do you give a speech with polish? Learn how at the School of Eloquence,
the home of public speaking.
Attend the public speaking masterclass or one-on-one coaching in Lagos and Abuja and boost your speaking confidence before any audience. To register, call
0802-303-2066 or log on to schoolofeloquence.org.
School of Eloquence, teaching the world to speak.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome to News Track. I'm Millicent Walker. These are some of the stories and reports we're tracking this hour. President Bola Tinubu arrives the presidential villa on his first day of work after being sworn in as Nigeria's 16th president. President Tinubu, who arrived from the Defense House, was welcomed by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, Group CEO, NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kyari, among others. Meanwhile, the Group CEO of NNPCL, Mr. Kyari, hailed the president's removal of fuel subsidy, announcing that the company is owed 2.8 trillion naira by the federal government. In the meantime, keeping with his promise to hit the ground running from day one with his principal, President Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima arrived on his first day of work at the Vice Presidential wing of the State House, Abuja. Speaking with State House correspondents after assuming office, Mr. Shettima reaffirmed the Tinubu administration's commitment to ensuring a better country for all Nigerians. He also reaffirmed the need for fuel subsidy removal and collapsing multiple exchange rates. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Kayla Megwa, reports.
At 12:39 p.m. on Tuesday, May the 30th, 2023, the convoy of Vice President Kashim Shettima arrives at his office